Hi and welcome to RC Kicks. On today's show, well, we're going to try and tackle a difficult one. We're going to basically cover all the RC buggies that I have in the RC Kicks collection. Now, we've done a few previous videos on this with the road, the rally cars, but the lion's share of the collection is buggies. So that gets very difficult when you've got the kind of number of buggies I have. So going through each of them, imagine if I put 5 minutes on each buggy and I've got 70 buggies, the video would be ridiculous. So I'm going to try and go through it pretty quickly, keep the editing to a minimum if I can help it, as otherwise this video will take days to edit up. So we're going to kick off no particular order at all. It's just whatever I can get my hands on first to keep it simple and to try and get this video done. So the first one we kick off with is the Comical Avanti, because it was on the desk from the last video. And I bought this honestly purely to have it on the channel, and it's grown on me so much it's stayed in the collection. It's the first four-wheel drive Comical and I really like it. Most of them are all two-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive ones, which were like the Frog, and then they did the Hot Shot that came after this as well, but this was my favourite. I think the Avanti body just suits that Comical look, and I love the new Comical drivers. They're really easy to paint up to a really high level as the face comes off. So anyway, and it's oil shocks all round, which is really good. Great fun, and because of the small wheelbase, you can drive them around in quite a short, small area. So perfect for driving around in the garden. Right, let's move on to the next one. Next, we have the Schumacher Top Cat that unfortunately was discontinued back last year, or was it the year before now? Time moves on so fast, but we're getting the Cougar soon. Now this one has been highly modified, even though you can't really tell. It's got the smaller front end on it, it's got all the metal uprights, it's got a brass plate at the front, it's still got the crashback system on it, and it's got a Mazum Models slipper clutch conversion on it, as well as a few other bits and pieces that I've done to the gearbox. I can't honestly remember, to be fair, but I was going to put the Pro transmission in it, but I decided to go this way as it's a little bit different as well. I did do some videos on this. You can pretty much find videos on any of the cars that you'll see in this video, so go check it out. All you want to do, if you want to find the video to this on the channel, just put the name of the buggy and add the word RC Kicks afterwards, and it will just bring it up nice and easy to find, versus me spending ages putting links in and everything like that. So that's the Top Cat, and we're getting the Cougar as well, and that should be here any day soon. Next, we have one of my favorites, and it really has grown on me. I love this. I restored it on the channel. This one is in perfect condition, and it's got upgrades like it's got high cap shocks on it, as well as it's got a metal bulkhead added to the front. I put a whole new body on it. Now this is the brother or sister, if you want to say, to the Dynastorm, the much more famous buggy. Now I did have one of those, but I actually sold it and kept this, and people do contact me about selling this on, so it has got quite a loved following. Now I like it because it's very stealth-like. A lot of people thought it was like the Stadium Thunder because it has the same body, but it's different decals obviously. So when you look at the price points between this and that, people went with that because it was a lot cheaper without realizing what was actually underneath this. This is a highly capable truggy, buggy, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, it's the Dyna Blaster and I love it. Next is the Turbo Optima Mid. This is a vintage one. This is not a re-release, the one that just came out. We'll get onto that shortly. But this is one that I've been slowly tinkering with and restoring in the background. It hasn't been restored on the channel. At some point it will come, and then I'll do a full strip down, full rebuild, which is what it needs. But I've been fixing a few bits and pieces and collecting some parts. I've got the decals obviously from the re-release, so I will use those. I'm hunting around to get a real re-release body, and then I'll do a new body for it. I have been slowly finding other parts, like I've got the tires, then the wheels have been cleaned up. Also, I've changed all the arms, so the arms are all brand new. There's no road rash on them, and it's got a new chassis on it as well. So I'm finding little bits and pieces to bring it back to mint. Soon as I have those other bits and pieces, it will come on the show for a full strip down and full rebuild. I have actually got some vintage electronics for it, the mechanical speed controller, so I'll put that back into it and make sure each part is the right one, because it's very easy to mix up the mids and put different parts on different ones to try and restore it back to what it should be. I don't think it's too far off. I think this anti-roll bar at the back is needs a bit of love as well. But there you go, that's the Turbo Optima Mid. The next one obviously needs no introduction. It's the brand new 2022 Optima Mid re-release. gorgeous. Just look at it, absolutely stunning. I did a full build of this on the channel, and since that video, the only things I've done to it is I've actually put a bottom on it. I added a few more decals and stuff. This is obviously doesn't come with the kit, but I'm yet to run it around the track. I will do that soon, but absolutely stunning. Really like it. And I've been slowly picking up other bits and pieces, like I just said, for some of the old vintage ones. The belt cover, the new one that's on this, and the cover that goes over the spur gear, I really like these plastic ones versus the old polycarbonate ones, so I managed to pick up a set of those as well, and I'll try and get a few more. So there's a few little bits and pieces that are going to help some of the vintage mids that I've got, but there you go, super chuffed to have it, and hopefully we'll see maybe the long wheelbase one coming soon from Kyosho. We can all just keep our fingers crossed. What's next? Next is one I really like. It's the Kyosho Laser ZX. And the reasons I like this are a bit different to what you think. Now, this car needs a desperate restoration. It hasn't seen any real love, and there's actually some broken parts as well. But what I love about this is it was gifted to me by a viewer. The body was gifted to me by a different viewer, and another viewer gifted me a load of parts to restore it. So this is 100% one of your cars, if you will. So it'll be one that I'll never sell, but it needs to be fully restored. But obviously parts were getting so difficult, I just haven't got round to doing it. But at some point I've now got enough bits and pieces to do a full restoration on this. But in the images on the camera, it looks good, but it's pretty ropey. So there you go. Next one is a very strange one, and it's one that a lot of people don't know about. It's an Avanti Vajra. Yes, believe it or not, underneath this is an Avanti chassis. The original, like 88 chassis. Not the Mark II or anything like that. And for some reason, I don't know what they were smoking that day, but Tamiya decided to do a basic truggy monster truck thing and just change the uprights. I've no idea. I don't know what to say about it. It is what it is. A lot of people don't know about it, obviously, because it just wasn't very popular. But I love it because it's part of the Avanti family, and it's just such an oddball. I mean, look at the arches on it to make it work. Doesn't drive particularly well, doesn't steer particularly well. I can't say it looks that great. I was never a fan of these lightning decals. The body itself is okay, apart from you have to cut out all the massive arches, which just seems a bit weird. The only thing I've done on this one is I've actually put an old Avanti black bottom on it. It doesn't come with the bottom, just to try and protect the chassis a little bit, as it's all fully open on the bottom when I've driven it. I don't drive it very much because it's just not that great. But there you go, that's pretty much the Vajra. Comment below, let me know what you think. Next, we have the last mid ever produced, long wheelbase. The body is absolutely stunning, I know, but a lot of people thought it was the ugliest one, but in this livery, it's beautiful. Now, this was designed, well, it's based on the F1 kind of Formula 1 livery, if you will. The box art is like gold, so I'm not overly sold on it. The only things that I've done to this is I cleaned up the wheels. I managed to get hold of new front tires for it, and it's in pretty decent condition. Doesn't really need a full restoration, but I've changed things, like I think I've changed some of the arms, and I put a new bumper on the front. Needs a new bottom tray. I'll need to sort one of those out at some point, but overall it's in pretty decent condition. Next, we have one of the jewels in my personal collection. It's this. It's a fully restored, beautiful condition Astute, and it's had all the upgrades. It's got a technical motor. It's got the TTC gearbox upgraded to it. The body is original. All the decals are original. Tires are in great shape. It's also got the upgraded vintage high caps on it. It's lovely condition. All the arms have been replaced, so they're all in no scratches, no nothing. The back bumper, the front bumper, and it's got some mods to it. The uprights are metal, the bulkhead is metal, some of the rear components are metal, just to try and make it a little bit stronger. Not that I drive it at all, but it sits in the shelf, but it's basically as hopped up as I can make it. It's even got, which is why it's so heavy, a vintage battery in there as well that's brand new. So a beautiful timepiece, and it's all got, obviously got all its vintage electronics as well. Next, we have the Kyosho Optima re-release, probably my favourite build ever so far of any vintage buggy, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Still in perfect condition. The only thing that's different on it is these Nerf bars have been added. They're not standard, and it's got a carbon top deck, which I put in pretty much when I got it. Beautiful, absolutely stunning, and it just shows you the quality that Kyosho put out. I can highly recommend it if you ever get hold of one of these. This one is done in chain, but you get the option to do chain and belt. A lot of people do the belt. I wouldn't put off the chain too much. It's still really smooth, and it's also a bit different. I've got 2 chain driven cars, both from Kyosho, the Phantom and this one, and they drive better than you think. So there you go. Can't really say much more about it apart from if you can get one, definitely add it to your collection. It is beautiful quality and it's as good as it gets. Next is the Super Astute. I haven't really done much with this one. Noticed it doesn't have a motor in it, which I'm surprised. I must have removed it to put it into something else. Still got the electronics in it. Hasn't changed much from box art apart from I've put high caps on it, modern ones, and it's got electronics in it. Oh yeah, and the wheels. I changed the wheels to pink. And they're a different scale size rim as well. Apart from that, no other changes. So there you go, pretty straightforward stuff. A lot of people like the look and some people really hate it. Comment below, let me know what you think. Next is a very special car. It even says it on the actual wing. It's the Kyosho Tom's Turbo Optima Mid Special, the rare one, the one that's really hard to get hold of. This one is in really good condition, apart from the front shocks are a little bit scratched. So it could do with maybe some new shocks on the front, but apart from that, it's in great condition. All the arms are lovely and replaced and beautiful. The bumper's not damaged. The under tray is in great condition, as well as all the chassis. It's not been messed with too much, so definitely one I'm really chuffed to have in the collection. Now, I was lucky enough to pick it up before things went bonkers with all these. So the tyres I managed to get as well. I've upgraded the tyres, so they're all brand new. Well, they're all old, but they haven't been run. Get a little bit hard. Maybe I need to put some silicone on them to try and soften them up a little bit because I don't want them to crack. Rims are in great condition. So there you go, a very desirable buggy that demands pretty stupid money these days. So for the interest of speed, I've lumped these two together. It's the DF03 chassis of the Dark Impact and the Avanti Mark II. Don't like it. Don't like it at all. Now, the reason I have these two, the story is more stupid about the Dark Impact, really. I got this on basically to go into the collection so that I've got one of every Avanti, even though I'm not too keen on it. And this, I bought this online dirt cheap because the original plan was to put this head to head with some budget buggies. And we were going to take them out and see how strong they were and take them to the skate park and basically smash them up and see which one survives the longest. The problem is, and the reason I haven't done it is A, I don't like smashing stuff up, but the real reason is when I bought this, it was cheap and I thought that it was in not the best condition. Turns out it's in beautiful condition. It needs a new chassis, which I have, but everything else, it's got a few little scratches, light scratches, that's it. Everything else is in beautiful condition. So I was a bit loath to smash it up, being that it's too good. So that's why, sorry, you haven't seen that video. Even though I've still got all the cars waiting to do it, it was just too nice. And the person who sold it basically was a bit too picky, telling me everything that was wrong with it, and it turns out it's not, apart from if I put a new chassis on it, it would look brand new. So I can't bring myself to take it to the skate park and smash it up. So there you go, that's the DF-03 chassis that I have in the collection. God, the stories are terrible. Next is one that's grown on me quite a lot, and it's the Tamiya 2022 Astute, the TD2. I started off not liking this. I think it's because of the TD4, but on its own merits, I actually, yeah, it's okay. I like the red and I like the way it looks. I've got a load of hop-ups to put on it before it can run around the Buggrad track and set a time. So it will be back on the show at some point. But yeah, it's definitely one that's going to stay. I'll probably end up selling off my TD4 that I've got, but this one I think will end up staying in the collection. And I'm hoping to be able to drive this one around, as I have got a new in-box one of these, so this will become a driver. Next is quite a rare one, and that's this. It's the Tamiya Wild One Night Custom Sand Rail. Now this I built on the show. This is basically where you take a Wild One and then you use some of the parts and then you basically buy this or you 3D print it yourself and put it together. There's a full build video on this. It's the main thing that's changed since the video is I've replaced the dampers on the front to be more scale looking. I sorted the steering out, but I'm not sure if that was in the second video. I've now got a steering wheel and I've got the, whatever you call that, the steering rack, whatever. So that's done. I've got to get the metal mesh to go underneath it, and I've got a sort of driver out. It fully works now. Also, I've upgraded it and changed a few bits and pieces to the Blockhead Wild One gearbox and arms to make it metal looking. They're chrome, so it just looks a little bit better. Hasn't been back on the channel yet because there wasn't enough to do really. I'm going to get some alloy wheels for it as well, but they're very expensive, so it's kind of sitting there at the moment. So it's one of those ones I'm just sort of ticking along, and then at some point when I've pretty much finished it, it'll be back on the channel as well. But absolutely love it, and I want to take it for a rip as well. Really, it needs to go to the beach. So at some point, if I'm going away on holiday or something, maybe I'll take this with me to get some fantastic shots. But a beautiful but highly expensive, and stupidly I actually wanted to build the Wild One, the original one, not the Blockhead one. So I've changed enough parts that I may almost have enough to build a Wild One, because I've always wanted to have an original one. So there we go. Maybe at some point I'll put them all together, do a Wild One rebuild, and then finish this on the channel at the same time. But definitely different, and one that's going to stay in the collection. One that's only just been added to the collection and probably is my all-time favorite. It's taken me so long to get one. It's the short wheelbase Schumacher Cat, and this obviously is a vintage one, not a converted XLS, and I was so chuffed to get this. This one for me was one I've been hunting for so long, and to get one in such good condition and at a decent price point, as well as I managed to get hold of a Demon Power motor, which is the correct kind of motor to put in this, as well as a fully working Demon Power electronic speed controller. So these are going to go back into this, so it will have all period correct electronics. But it's better than I expected, and it's being that it's in such perfect condition, I need to change the bottom tray for a new one. This one's okay, but it's just showing its age. That is an original one. I don't have to do anything to this one. It just needs to go on the shelf with all the electronics in it. I think this would go around the Bugrad track really well because it's short wheelbase, so it will turn on a dime, which is perfect for small tracks. So at some point I will run it just to see what it's like. But I have to say, it's meeting one of my heroes, and it's as good as I thought. And being that a friend of mine way back in the day had one, there's also that connection to it as well. So there you go. That's my short wheelbase Cat, and I am super chuffed because I didn't think I was going to get one because the prices have gone stupid. One that I've had in my collection for quite a while, and another one I am super privileged to look after, is this, a 1988 Avanti, all original, in perfect condition, a little bit dusty, original body and original wheels, everything. The only thing I think it could do with improving is being it's so old that the shocks have lost their gold. They've kind of gone a bit silver, so maybe replacing them for some other vintage. I don't know whether it's sat in the sun or what, I don't know, but they've actually changed to be more silver. It's got period correct electronics in it, and it's got a Technigold motor in it, in lovely condition. Very unmolested car and period correct. All the front is correct. When I first got it, the only thing that had been changed is the steering plate, whatever you want to call it, had been changed to a Mark II version. So I managed to get hold of one and change it back to be period correct. So this is the Mark I version, which is the more popular one of the Avanti. So there you go. It could do with a full strip down and full rebuild just to clean it up and freshen it up. But at some point maybe it will be back on the show. Depends when it's quiet and I've caught up with a load of other jobs. But definitely one of my favourites. Next, I am super chuffed to have this one in my collection. It's a vintage team associated RC10 Gold Pan A-Stamp Cadillac. And it hasn't been restored. It's pretty much exactly as it was when I got it. I put a new body on it, as it came with no body at all. It's got vintage electronics in it and a mechanical speed controller, so it's pretty much exactly as it was. Changed the tyres for new tyres, but apart from that, left it alone really. It has been driven, it's got some light scratches on the bottom, but nothing too serious. but it's just a very honest, straightforward kind of vintage car. So super chuffed to have it. I got it, pretty sure I got it before prices went a bit bonkers as well, so it was a good purchase. Not that I'm going to sell it. I actually sold the re-release version so that I could fund a RC10's World car, which is coming up later, because I had two of them. I had the vintage one and I had the re-release, so I just sold one off because there was no point having both. Another vintage team associated RC10, but not the gold pan, it's the graphite. Now, I haven't done anything to this buggy since I got it. It's just sat on the shelf. This is the original body that came with it, but I have commissioned a new body for this, and it is box art with a twist. It will be back on the show soon, as it's coming now, so I will bring this on the show. It doesn't need a restoration in any way, it just needs a new body really. So that'll be coming soon, and I've got to make a new spoiler metal plate up for it. So I'll do that at some point. But again, in great condition, no damage to this one at all, especially around the front. This is where they kind of get damaged the most because you just whack the front of it, but this one's in good condition. So again, a pretty rare buggy that's now demanding stupid money, and it's got the correct motor as well. So there you go, my graphite. Next is one that's been on the show quite a bit, and it's one of my favourites, but a very oddball car that you probably don't know anything about unless you've kind of watched the channel, as it doesn't really come up very often. It's the Neo Top Force. It's nothing like a normal Top Force, completely different chassis. Now, these were XB built only, you couldn't get these as kits, and these are insanely hard to find. So if you do see one of these coming up and it's in good condition, grab it, because you might actually get it as a bit of a bargain, because people don't know anything about these, so they come up very rarely, and then because they're so rare and people don't know about them, they tend to not sell for very much. So you can get quite a rare car for very good money if you're lucky. But if two people find one of these up for sale and they know what they are, then prices will jump massively. So if you hunt around, you may find a bit of a bargain, but there's a few things that you must be careful of. One, it must have the battery tray clip. Without that, you'll never get a replacement. Obviously, the chassis cannot be replaced, so if it's damaged and all scratched up, that will have a massive effect. You can change the arms like I've done already. Now, believe it or not, I actually have a brand new chassis that I found. Again, stumbled across it, never seen one since, so I can actually change the chassis on this at some point, which I will do, to turn it back to never been driven. I've replaced all the tyres and all the wheels, as well the arms, the bonnet, the bumper, and the rear tail section. The body on this one is in really good condition, but I actually found a brand new body set as well. Again, popped up out of nowhere, didn't even know they ever did them, so I grabbed that as well. So at some point I can restore this completely back to perfect. Whether I will or not, or just leave it alone. I mean, it's pretty much as perfect as you're going to get really for something of this age, but it's one I really like. It's got obviously all the original electronics still in it. That's important because people rip them out and put more modern stuff in them. But just an oddball, and this chassis was only ever seen on 3 vehicles: a Hummer XB that again you will never find, and this, and the Superman Tray as well. So I have that one. So the only one of the 3 that I don't have is the Hummer, because I've never seen one come up. I'll tell a lie, I saw one come up and I missed it in about 3 years. That's how rare it is. So that's my Neo Top Force, and I've had a few of these and I've sold them on, but I kept the best one for myself. Next is one that if you've been watching the show for a while, you'll know all about. It's this, a fully restored Striker in perfect condition. Everything is brand new, and I attempted to make the best Striker ever, and I had it professionally painted driver. Because it sits on the top, I went to a whole other level and paid to have the driver done, and it is stunning. He is beautiful, all done in enamel, and then it's all original decals, original parts, everything. And I put a Tamiya light, what motor is in it? Tamiya lightly tuned motor, mainly because it's blue. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? To make it match. It has all vintage electronics in it, and I really love it. Don't get me wrong, I used to hate them back in the day, but this one, absolutely beautiful. Now is a buggy that you may or may have never seen on the channel. I think it's been on the show once and then it's just been put to the side. It's this, it's a vintage Kyosho Optima Mid Custom in dire need of a restoration. The only thing I've done to this one is I managed to source new rear tyres and new front tyres and new rims. That's about it. It's still got its electronics in it, but it does need a full restoration as well as a whole new body set added to it. It is complete, but it has had a bit of a hard life. Have I changed any of the arms? No, the arms actually are showing some rash. I tend to change the arms when I can. So yeah, haven't really done much with this one. It's just sort of sat in the cupboard. I didn't pay a great deal of money for it. I think I paid like £200 for it. Now they're demanding double that in this condition, let alone a mint one. So I will get round to it, I promise. Next is the re-release Nova Fox, based on the Fox, obviously from Tamiya. Now, my dad purchased one of these back in the day, second-hand, with a camel painted body, and I still have the body set to do a reproduction of how he had it, and I must do that at some point. I think I've been saying that for about 2.5 years, but I've got everything I need to do it. It's just on the list of things to do. The only thing different on this one is obviously I've changed the rims and tyres, because these are off the Wild One blockhead car, and I've put the gold ones that were on here on that. Not that I can't change it back again, but I just think it looks better for both cars. I prefer the silver. Has been driven around the garden a few times. It's got a bit of grass on it, no real damage. It could be cleaned up. There's no scratches or anything. It's just got a bit of grass on it. I do drive it, and I think I burned the motor out last time, so I need to change the motor on it. But there you go, nothing super special about that. Next one needs no introduction at all, and it's a basically brand new vintage Falcon in perfect condition, never driven. Body is vintage as well. It's all original, this car. The decals, I actually upgraded the decals and I removed them and I added new decals, and I messed up this one and it's got worse and worse with it sitting in the cupboard. But I do have a brand new set of Falcon decals, vintage ones obviously. So at some point I will go back and I will fix this side here. Everything else is perfect. It's got all the vintage electronics in it, and every single part on it is brand new, including the front bumper, which are impossible to get. Now, whether we'll ever get a Riri one of these, I thought we were going to get one, but no. So hopefully we will get one at some point. And I've actually put an RX 540 SD Technipower motor in it as well. I've got two of these. One is highly modified and this one is standard factory. I am super chuffed to have one like this. Hopefully we will get a Riri, as I think a lot of people really want to get one of these. Doesn't drive that brilliant, mainly because the suspension is so hard. If you do ever build one of these, you definitely want to have the suspension softer. But there you go, that's the famous Falcon. Next is the car that started it all for me. It's the Grasshopper. This one has been modified quite a bit. This is a re, it's not an original one. I changed the suspension on the back and it's got a torsion bar set up on the rear. Not that that makes a blind bit of difference to anything. It did have oil shocks on the front, but they leaked too much. I took them off. It has got a Ampro Engineering front end upgrade, so it's actually is a little bit more drivable, but only to a certain level. But I don't drive it very often. It's just got a standard silver can motor in it, so you can't really put too much stupid power in these. And I upgraded the fog lights, but apart from that, I haven't really done anything else to it. There's no real need to be fair. They drive like they do. I need to put this round the track. These are great garden RCs. So there you go, that's my reproduction Grasshopper, slightly modified. Next is my DF02 Aero Avanti, and rare, hard to find these things. Now, I must admit, I wasn't a fan. I have seen some people paint these up. I saw one where someone did it as the Marlboro livery and Formula One light, and being that it's got these big aero things on the front, I think that worked much better. But it has grown on me a little bit. But I wouldn't say it's, I mean, maybe because there's been other Avantis that I thought didn't deserve the name even more than this one. But let's not just go down that controversial route. But I am glad to have it in the collection. I have been asked to sell it a few times and I've said no. Mainly because I think it's just one that I couldn't replace. They are so hard to find. You can easily find an 88 Avanti, but try finding one of these. Go figure, right? Now there's two of these. There's a blue and a red, and then there was the chrome red one, I think. any of them are really hard to find. They do come up from Japan now and again, and obviously you can make one by getting a DFO2 chassis and then doing the body and stuff, so you can make your own one if you want to. But there you go, that's my Aero Avanti. So for the sake of time, we're going to cover all these three cars as one entity, and they kind of are really, well, the story is anyway. So about 4 years ago, I wanted to get an Evolution, but they were super expensive. They were like 500 odd pound 4 years ago, and that's if you could find one, and they just didn't come up. Now, I wanted to get one of those, but I couldn't, so I got a fake one, and I've put all the parts on it and actually made up a fake Evolution, and a lot of people did that back in the day. It's got all the carbon chassis, it's got the correct diffs in it, it's got titanium screws, it's got high caps on it, so it was as close as I could get, and it's brushless, and this is my runner. And you can tell it's my runner because I broke it 2 days ago. The parts are coming, but there we go. Anyway, I digress. So then, out of nowhere, the Evolution, my original one, came up for sale, and I grabbed it and I paid 500 odd quid for it, £550, and it was for sale for like 2 minutes, and I managed to get it. So I finally got one of my holy grail cars, and that is a vintage Evolution. And you can always tell because of the uprights and things like that. They're very easy to tell the difference between the vintage one, a fake one, and the new Evo. Then, luckily enough, Tamiya decided to release the Evo. Massive thumbs up to Tamiya for doing that. So many people have got to experience this. Yes, I know you can say, oh, well, they're everywhere now, so they're not as special, but so many people got to actually experience building the Evo, and it's the second favourite build apart from the Turbo Optima, and of course I bought this one pre-done, so I never got to experience it either, so I think it was well worth it. Now prices have come down a little bit on the Evolution. I saw someone actually grab a bargain for like just under £300 for a vintage one, but I think that was more of a fluke than the actual market, but prices will go back up. Not that I planned on selling it, but if you notice on these ones, I've actually got vintage spike tyres on my Evolution and my Evo. So yeah, I went a little bit nuts and put those on just to make it look a bit more the same. Now these are not finished for a long shot. The Evolution fake one will just stay as it is as I drive it, and I bash it around, break it, doesn't really matter. So there's a few upgrades I need to do. This is a reproduction body with reproduction decals. For a long time there was a lot of people trying to get the right decals to do fake ones, but now we've got the re-release that you can take those original Tamiya decals, as there's not that much difference apart from the writing down the side. So I've got to do a whole new body for this. I've got the aftermarket body that's got the scoop missing, so I will use that with some original decals. I've got about 3 sets of these decals to keep them. Next we have one that's basically, don't think it's ever really been on the show, and that's this, an unrestored vintage big wig. I've done a few little bits and pieces, like put new tyres and new rims on it. It's got the correct Technigold motor in it and the correct electronics. I have got a whole host of vintage parts for this. I've got a body, all the yellow parts, to basically do a full restoration. I've got a vintage chassis, vintage arms and everything. So at some point this will be back on the show for a full restoration. It's got all the original electronics in it, so I should be able to restore this to basically a beautiful vintage example. Next is one that I purchased totally for myself, and it was on an impulse, and I'm glad I did. It's this, the Supershot original vintage one. Now these are quite rare because obviously they've been reproduced, but the original ones only ran for about a year, so they're not the easiest thing to find. Obviously you can get all the parts to replace bits and pieces, but to find a totally original one, this one's got all the electronics in it, it's got the correct motor in it that came with the kit. Now it's done in the gold because Tamiya did a flyer, and they did one that was on done gold, which I have the flyer for it, and this is done to represent that. But it's all original, so I'm super chuffed to have this in the collection, even though it doesn't need anything. It just sits on the shelf, getting a bit dusty every now. getting dusted every now and again, but apart from that, I love it. Look at it, it's as good looking as they get. Next is a 2011 Avanti that I've got in the collection. I've had this for quite a long time. I haven't done absolutely anything with it. It's basically as it came when I purchased it, and it was the first Avanti that I got before I got the 88 and all the other ones. The previous owner decided to do it more in this kind of style, so at some point I will paint up another body and go back to the blue, just to get it box art. But I kind of like it like this. Whether it'll end up being my driver Avanti, as obviously I've got a few of them, but there you go, that's my 2011 Avanti stock. Next we have quite a controversial one for RC Kicks. It's this, the TD4 Super Avanti. This one is totally stock, apart from I cut the top off it, mainly because I just don't like the look of the body. Now, I was going to sell this. I almost got to the point of selling it, as I have a new in-box yellow chassis one, which is the more rare one that's got the body already painted for you. So what my plan was to sell this on and then put this money to something else, but what I might end up doing is keeping it as a runner. I don't know, and then, or I honestly don't know. I'm going to run it around the track a few times now we've got the new layout and see how it goes. Depends on how it drives. I still haven't even driven it. I haven't got around to driving it, so I honestly don't know. But I haven't done anything else with it apart from leave it sitting on the shelf. I just don't have a connection to it at all. Whereas it's funny, whereas the TD2 Astute I like a lot more. There is a new body set that's just come out for it, aftermarket body set, which I purchased. So I'm going to paint that up for it. That may change the way I feel about it. I honestly don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. So it will be back on the show when I do the body paint up, and then we'll see whether I will fit some upgrades to it or not. Anyway, there you go. That's enough about the TD4. Another Avanti I have in the collection is the Avanti Black, and the most expensive of all the Avantis. As you can see, it needs a little bit of work because it's missing a bottom tray, because I took it off this one. I have got a replacement, but I just haven't done it yet, and it's missing the driver. I have the driver, I just need to paint it up. This one needs all the diffs need to be taken out and sorted out. This was used, but the body is original and the wing is original. The person who owned this previously put a whole aftermarket body set on it, drove it pretty hard, but because of the way that the actual chassis is protected, there's no real damage, but dirt and grit got into the diffs. I did take them out and clean them, but it's still a bit rough, so it could do with a full restoration, really. Strip down, clean, rebuild. I did change a few of the bearings. The body's fine, it's in perfect condition and everything. I just need to do the bottom tray. So that is the Avanti Black. Part 2 coming soon. I don't know why I did that. Kind of embarrassed now.